Hi everybody, my name is Albert Pinello and I run product planning here at Xbox. It's been an exciting few months since we launched the Xbox One. We've done lots of updates to the system, and one of the things that I've noticed as I've been able to talk to our fans and read comments online is people are curious how to set up Kinect to get the most out of the system. So what I wanted to do was bring Scott Evans, he runs the engineering team for Kinect. I wanted to bring him here and shoot a little video to take you through some of the things that you can do, some tips and tricks, some hints, and some tutorials about how to set up Kinect so you can get the best experience on Xbox One. So I think the first thing we should do is start with setup. So Scott, can you take us through a little bit about, I just got my Xbox One, I just took it out of the box, and I'm setting up Kinect. What's the best way to set up Kinect out of the box to get the best experience?
Yeah, so first off, let's talk about where do you put your sensor in your room. The first tip is don't really put your sensor directly on top of your speaker. This Kinect has a very sensitive microphone array. Putting it too close to a speaker will make it hard for it to hear your voice over the natural sounds of the movie and the game. Tip number two is higher is better. When the Kinect is placed really low, a lot of times it'll see your knees instead of your body, especially when you're sitting on the couch. So getting it up a little bit higher will give it a much better view of your living room. There's some great third-party shelves out there that you can put on top of your TV. Sometimes just right on top of your TV gives it the best view of the room.
Cool. What if I can't put the sensor on top of the TV?
Yeah, if you have another tabletop, maybe the table that the TV is setting on, that works as well. The tip there is make sure that you put it fairly close to the edge of the tabletop. Often when it's on a table, it'll see the edge of the table and think that's the floor. So if it's off on the edge, it gets a much better view of the room.
What tips do you have as I'm going through the setup to have it recognize me and hear me the best?
Yeah, so first off, it'll go through audio calibration. And this is where it's going to measure the speakers in your room and even the characteristics of your room so it can separate out all of the game soundtrack, movie soundtrack from the sound of your voice. First tip while you're doing that is to make sure you turn your volume pretty high. Basically, you want to set your volume as high as you'll ever listen to a movie or game in your house, which might be pretty loud for that moment while it's going through calibration. And when the calibration's done, you can go ahead and turn it back down to the comfortable level that you want for that moment in time.
One of the things I've noticed in the out-of-box setup is it says, make sure the room is silent. Do you really want the room to be as super silent, as quiet as possible, or is a little bit of ambient noise okay?
I think you want the room where it's basically in the typical listening configuration. So if you've got a noisy child or dog in the room, that might be a time to ask them to step out for a moment so that the only noises are the noises that are always there and always present that Kinect can then filter out on a day-to-day basis. If Kinect is telling you the speakers are too loud, you knock it down one notch till it doesn't say it's too loud, and then you've got the optimal calibration level.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about identity. One of the cool things about Kinect is that it can recognize you, it can recognize me, it can deliver us custom experiences, our own homepage, our own content. And the setup for your identity on Xbox One is different than it was for Kinect on Xbox 360.
Yeah, when you set up your account on your Xbox, it'll ask you to enroll yourself, and it'll basically show you a picture of the room and say, hey, is that you? And then once you say it's you, it'll remember who you are and be able to sign you in automatically from that point forward. A couple things to remember on that. One is that every Xbox you go to, you have to go through that process. For privacy reasons, we keep those images of your face only on your Xbox. Then there's kind of two problem situations that people run into. The first one is when it gets it wrong. What happens when it doesn't recognize you? It recognizes you someone else. And there's a real easy way to go fix that in the product by simply saying, I wasn't recognized, and that'll allow the Xbox to learn better who you are. The tip on that one is go through that in your typical living situation. Typical lighting, typical seating area in the couch, what chair you normally sit in, and that'll help it tune to your normal behaviors.
So in Kinect on Xbox 360 to do identity, I had to stand in the squares and move around. Do you recommend sort of putting yourself in a position where Kinect can see you best, or getting into a more natural position when you're going through identity on the Xbox One?
Yeah, just get in your normal, natural position and let it recognize you from there, and it'll learn that process over time.
So Scott, once I've placed the Kinect sensor, not near a speaker, and as high as I possibly can or as close to the front of the table, how do I know that it actually can see me and is getting the right play area and seeing me on the couch?
Yeah, I mean, basically how you can aim the Kinect sensor best.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, well, so if you go into settings, let me show you. You go into settings and you pick Kinect. and there's an option off to the side that says, I moved my Kinect sensor. And this will give you a view of what Kinect can see, and it'll actually walk you through the process of aiming your sensor. The other tip here as you go through this, keep in mind that the entire front of the Kinect sensor is a sensing device. So as you're aiming it and you put any fingerprints on there, make sure to wipe those off afterwards so the Kinect has the highest, crispest view of the room.
So Scott, one of the other things I've seen people ask about is when Kinect doesn't recognize them. Say that I got a haircut, I had long hair, or I shaved my beard off, and now Kinect doesn't recognize me. How do I improve that or get it to recognize me better?
Sure. Well, I'll walk you through that as well. There's a simple option to allow you to tell Kinect how to recognize you better. So you just can go up to your sign-in area up here and pick the option of I wasn't recognized. And when you choose that option, it's going to say, who are you? So I'm going to go ahead and pick my profile. I'm going to choose myself. And it'll say, hey, great, we'll recognize you better in the future. First, it'll say, who are you? And now it thinks you're Scott here, and I'm trying to correct it. So I'm going to put my hand over my head, and now it knows that I'm Scott. And when I say that's me, now it's recorded who I am and my latest haircut, where I'm sitting on the couch. All of that information will help make it recognize me better in the future.
That's awesome.
The other tip on this is sometimes if you feel like you're sitting in front of Kinect and it does not signing you in, remember it's got to be able to see you in order to sign you in. So if you're laying down on the couch under the blanket, maybe it doesn't have a good view of you. If you come in, sit down, look at the sensor, it'll sign you in. Then you can go into your kind of more reclined seating position.
So one of my favorite features of Kinect, and one of the things I don't think a lot of people know, is that Kinect actually has an IR blaster built in. So it can not only hear my voice and see me, but can control all my entertainment. I know at my house I have it set up so when I say Xbox on, it turns on my TV, it turns on my amp. Can you talk to me a little bit about how to get that set up and what's the best way to get the IR blasting working?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really easy. It's also here right in settings. I'll go into settings and into the TV and One Guide section. And then under there's a section called devices. And this is where you teach Kinect what model TV you have, what model cable set-top box, and if you have an audio receiver or not. And Kinect itself has the IR blaster, and it'll talk to those devices. And you think, well, the Kinect is pointing into the room. How's it going to talk to my TV that's right underneath it? The IR blaster is actually so powerful that it can send infrared into the room, bounce off us, bounce off the furniture, come back and control the TV, control all of your devices. The one tip on this is that if your cable set-top box or receivers in a closed cabinet with an opaque door, it's not going to be able to send IR commands through that closed door. In that situation, the console has an IR blaster jack on the back, and you can run a little mini blaster right into the cabinet so that it can really see all of those devices.
Yeah, cool. I know you and I have demoed a lot around the world, and one of the biggest delighters has always been how awesome the Kinect IR blasting works. It's super reliable, and there's a lot of cool features that we'll cover off in another video that you can do with IR blasting. So anyway, I wanted to say thanks to Scott for coming and showing you some of the setup things. I hope you guys learned some good tips, and thanks for watching.